Torah. So learning Tanya Bal Peh certainly fits the bill. To be a Shliach Tzibur, which means like to go to the Ummah, to be the Chazan, you could call it, for Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv in the weekday, or for Shabbos. So most boys are very excited that when they turn Bar Mitzvah, that now they're able to be a Shliach Tzibur. However, some boys are really, really nervous, and they need to be encouraged, and perhaps have to be pushed. Because if you do it then, in the beginning, when you turn Bar Mitzvah, it's something you learn how to do, and it's something that it's good to know how to do. And if you don't do it, then you don't do it when you're 13, you don't do it when you're 14, you don't do it when you're 15, it becomes this really scary thing. And later it could turn into a problem. So it's something worth doing when they're young and still excited, even if they're nervous, and push them to do it. Some boys pick it up entirely on their own. They don't need any help. They've gone to shul enough times. They pick up everything on their own. There are some boys that need help. You just need to go through davening with them. The first time that they're chazan for Ma'ariv, you take them to shul, or Shachris the morning after the Bar Mitzvah, you go with them, and you make sure that they know, here's where you say Kaddish, here's where you stand, here's where you stop, here's where you start. Simple preparation. There are boys who also want to either, again, pick it up on their own, or they want to learn the Nusa, how to be a Shliach Tzibur for Shabbos and Yom Tif, which requires a certain Nusach that we have in our shuls. And some boys prepare that for their Bar Mitzvah as well, and the week that they're laning, they're also Chazan for Musaf. Again, it's cute, it's nice, and if they have the time to do it and doesn't take away from anything else important, why not? In the past, there was a couple of times that we made after school optional Nusach classes. I put out a message to the parents, are you interested if your son should participate in a class to learn Nusach, to learn how to be a Shliach Tzibur for Shabbos and Yom Tif, learn L'chadaidi and learn Hallel and different key parts of Shabbos and Yom Tif. And whenever we had a group, we hired somebody to teach it to them. And if there's interest, you could email me or call me, and we could certainly put together a group again for Nusach classes if it's wanted. It's not something that's needed. Making a speech at a Bar Mitzvah is another thing that a lot of Bar Mitzvah boys do. And it's nice. A lot of boys, they get up there, they thank their parents, they thank the guests for coming, and everything else that goes in a speech. It could be a very meaningful part of the Bar Mitzvah. Sometimes it's an adorable part to the Bar Mitzvah. But what I want to add over here is that certainly, if there's a boy or for whatever reason is not doing a pilpul at his Bar Mitzvah, even if you don't do a pilpul, there is an inyan to say over an inyan in nigla at your Bar Mitzvah. So in the speech, you could always start off with a simple, easy Dvar Torah, like a Shabbos table Dvar Torah. You start off with a question, you say an answer, you say a vart on the parsha, then you go on to say your thank yous. Instead of getting up just to make a speech, you might as well use that opportunity to say over Dvar Torah, and you're doing what the Rebbe wanted at a Bar Mitzvah, to share a Maimer Chassidus and an Inyan and Nigla, even if it's not the full-on pilpul style. Now let's talk about tutoring for a minute, because there are boys who get tutors for the Maimer even, for the laning for sure, for the pilpul, all other areas of the Bar Mitzvah. So let's talk about tutoring. So first of all tutoring takes place after school. All these preparations for the Bar Mitzvah are not meant to take away from learning, and they have to take place after school. And with Kenai Nara 140 Talmidim in this grade, if everybody would get tutored during school hours, we could close down the school, because everybody will be out at their tutors. So we can't do it during yeshiva hours. It's something that the year before your Bar Mitzvah, you put in that extra time in the evenings to take care of. Talking about needing the time, I just want to give you a heads up. If you haven't had yet a son who went through a Bar Mitzvah, so maybe I'll make a little prediction over here, that his Maimer and Pilpul will become one of his best excuses. And unfortunately for some boys, they really ride with this. And anything you're going to ask them to do, to babysit, to shop, to learn for Chidom, Mishnayos Malpeh, whatever it may be, I have my Maimer to do, I have my Maimer. Realistically, for most boys, they're not putting in hours every night to their Maimer. There are some boys, and I feel for them, that they work really hard and they study every night. But most boys are not. They're barely putting in the time, they get pushed, and if you really add up at the end how much time it took them to learn the Maimer, it wasn't even that long. But it does turn into an excuse. You're going to say, you did Chidon in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. How come you're not doing it this year? I have my Maimer to do. How come you're not going to Yeshiva Saarav? I have my Maimer to do. It turns into this standing excuse, and it certainly does not have to be that way. Now, if you hire a tutor, so obviously it's important that the tutoring takes place in a safe place. So here are some suggestions. The tutoring can happen. We have a Yeshiva Saarav program. The Crown Heights community is fortunate to have that. And it's a very safe public place with staff. And boys are allowed to go learn whatever they want. They can show up to Yeshiva Saarav with their tutor and learn over there. It's been done, and it's a safe and great place to do that. Additionally, it could take place in one of the Yagdal Torah Batei Medrash. At this point, Crown Heights has 3 public Batei Medrash, always open to the public, right here on Eastern Parkway and Empire, and a new one just opened on Albany. And great safe public space where you could go and learn with cameras open to the public. And of course, it could take place in the kollel. If it's like during kollel hours, a lot of kollel galai get permission to learn with a boy for an hour, 6 to 7 or 5 to 6. It's also a great place where it could take place. You could obviously do it at home. Now, if you need ideas for a tutor, so if you want one now, you could call me now and I could try to set you up with people that I know that are interested in tutoring jobs. But if you don't plan on getting a tutor till next year, there's no point in calling me now. You call me next year, Mitzvah Hashem. Because tutors are people who are, just got married, they're in kollel, they're looking for a side job, so they come and go. They're not always staying around. So every year I have always a list of people who approach me on the street. Oh, I want a part-time job. Do you have some tutoring? And I'll just save their names and numbers. And I have a long list of names and numbers. And then parents call me, do you have a tutor? And I'll say, here's the names and numbers that I have. So that list keeps on changing. So if you want to hire somebody now already, you could be in touch with me now. If you're only thinking about next year, let's only talk about it next year, Mitzvah Hashem. Now, I have to put out there that the tutors, any names and numbers that I give you, and the reason why I do it through a phone call and not just, share a public list, is because I don't know those people. So I can't take responsibility. I leave that on you to do your own research, that you're comfortable who your son is learning with, where, when, and how. I don't know those people. Many people stop me on the street or text me, WhatsApp me, and they say, do you have any tutoring jobs? And my answer, I have a built-in Nusa, and I send them a Google form, and the answer is, I don't have jobs. I could be a shadchan. People ask me for tutoring. You're asking to be a tutor. I'll collect your info, and I'll share it with parents. And sometimes I never met those people, or I met them only for a moment. Sometimes it's somebody I know. So therefore, on a phone call, I'm able to be a little more specific with you about what names I'm sharing with you. Please do your own research. You have to be comfortable. And a lot of times parents ask me, what's the going rate? And it's a very hard question to answer. There are some tutors who are teachers, and they do this after hours, and they're considered top of the line, and they charge a lot of money. Sometimes you have a bacher in Zal who's asking for very little money. Then you have a younger man in kollel. So it really depends what they're up to, what their experience is. And there are people who will charge $15 for an hour, and there are people who charge $100 for an hour. If I had to guess the average rate, I would say it's $25 for 45 minutes. But I don't even really know what the average rate is. I can't say for sure. So now, we talked about the preparation for the bar mitzvah, for the bar mitzvah boy. And then we'll move on to the parents, and we have more parts to this evening. We'll talk about planning the event, the actual event, and after the bar mitzvah. Which one is the priority? This is the million-dollar question, and I'm not going to answer this as an authority. I'm going to give my suggestions based on everything I shared with you. You'll see what I see and what I think the correct answer to this question is. What is the priority? So number one, the chief priority for a bar mitzvah boy is to learn Hilchas Tefillin and all halachis and itzrachis. Not just Hilchas Tefillin, any halachis for any mitzvah that now he has to keep. Mina Torah, he's turning 13. It's the real deal. Number two is the mimer. Number three is the pilpul. Number four, I put speech, because remember, if he's not saying a pilpul, then in the speech he should say a dvar Torah. If he is saying a pilpul and he's just making a thank you speech, it's not a priority at all. It's something nice, but it's not a priority. The reason why I put speech over here is because if there is no pilpul, a speech with a dvar Torah is the next priority, to say over inyan of Torah at your bar mitzvah. The next two are pretty much equal in honor of your bar mitzvah, to either make a sima mishnayos or to learn Yud Beis Prakim Tani Bal Peh. Those are both things that were highly encouraged by the Rebbeim and the Rehesafalim, the Torah. If your son is going to learn Hilchas Tefillin, he's very capable. A lot of boys are, and he does the mimer and he does his pilpul. Siyam mishnayos and Yud Beis Prakim would be the next things that he should certainly work on. After that would be to learn how to be a shliach tzibur. There's actually a story. It's printed in. I don't remember the name of the book, but it's a book about Rabbi Shustam and Alav Shalom, the famous Bal Kaira. And he has a story in there where one time the Rebbe came into him and the Rebbe told him to make classes with the Bachram in 770 how to be a Shliach Tzibur. So there's value in knowing how to be a Shliach Tzibur properly. I would put that next. And the last two, which are totally not a priority. A lot of boys do it, so that's why I'm putting it up here. But it's not a priority, and it's not our minig that you have to do it, is Kriyas HaTorah and the Haftarah. So based on everything that I looked into and all the letters and all the hirais, I believe that this will answer your question, and this is what the order of priorities should be. Again, I need to mention that the Rebbe doesn't only speak about halachis and itzrachis, about Hilchas Tefillin. The Rebbe talks about knowing all halachis and itzrachis. It's because now he's going to be obligated in keeping all 613 mitzvahs. So I'll give you an example. When boys are younger, it's chinuch. They wear tzitzis. You have some boys that they're more petite, they're smaller, and they wear maybe a size 14, 16 tzitzis, maybe 18. When they're bar mitzvah, they have to wear tzitzis to do the mitzvah min Torah. You have to ask the store. I'm much past that size at this point, but I think it's either size 20, maybe it's 18. You could ask anybody behind the store in Judaica World or Hamefitz what size it is that Mina Torah that's considered a beged for tzitzis. When your son turns 13, he has to wear proper tzitzis. When your son turns 13, he has to get up for Seisman Krishma, even on Shabbos, even a day that there's no yeshiva, and different things like that. These are things you have to talk about and prepare for the bar mitzvah, because now he's mechoyev in all these things, just like his father is. Shnai mikra v'echad targum to do on Fridays, and anything else. I just mentioned a couple of things, and I wanted to make a slide about it because the Rebbe keeps on mentioning every letter. Halachis and itzrachis is top priority. Before we move on to the parents' part of what the parents do usually to prepare for the bar mitzvah, I want to talk a little bit about anxiety. Why? Because it's very much related to the bar mitzvah. There are many boys who have anxiety, so when it comes to the bar mitzvah, wow, it really, the flame really gets turned up. And there are even boys who you never saw or thought that they're anxious at all, but when it comes to the bar mitzvah, they become. It's their first time perhaps doing public speaking, they have to know by heart, they're going to be the center of attention, whatever it may be, for obvious reasons, it could cause the boy to be anxious. So first of all, for you to know as a parent, anxiety ahead of a bar mitzvah is totally normal. Second of all, you could figure out ways how to reduce it. For example, your son doesn't have to lane. If that's causing him a lot of stress, he doesn't have to lane based on what the priorities that we shared. Or other ways you could figure out how to reduce it, including speaking to him about it and making strategies and making a schedule. Other simple, basic parenting tricks that you all know how to help your child reduce their anxiety. Discuss it with your son, like I mentioned. This is one of my favorite lines about anxiety that I once heard from one of the therapists that I attended a presentation. He said, he elaborated that anxiety could be a very good thing, right? I was anxious about tonight's events. I made sure to prepare better so I could do a better job. Anxiety does us a favor. Anxiety helps us. So, therefore, anxiety is not always bad. Anxiety could be your best friend. Anxiety could be motivating you. So when do you know, when's anxiety crossing the line and turning into something unhealthy? The difference is if it mobilizes you or paralyzes you. If it paralyzes you and you say, I don't want to go to school because I have a test, and I don't want to go to the doctor's appointment because I'm scared of the shot, and you're not doing things you need to do, and it paralyzes you, that anxiety is not healthy. But if you're anxious about something and because of that you prepare for it, and you take it more seriously, and you think about it in advance, then the anxiety is a great thing. So if you're anxious about driving in the rain at night and you have a very important appointment to go to, so if you're anxious about it, you'll leave earlier, you'll arrange a ride, you'll drive slowly, but you won't just stay home. That will paralyze you. You'll do things to help yourself to do it in a better way. So it's very normal for boys to be anxious for their bar mitzvah, and unfortunately it's also normal for them to maybe even start acting out in school sometimes because they don't know where to put that anxiety. Boys who are, I don't know what happened to my son. In first grade he was amazing, second grade he was amazing, seventh grade it could start happening sometimes. So it's important to be aware of it and to try to help your son as much as possible through that. Parents' preparations. We're going to talk about ordering tefillin bags, hat and jacket, suit, choosing the date of the bar mitzvah, planning the event, and reserving for the first Aliyah. So each one of these is going to have their own slide. And from here, for the rest of the night, I hope to go through it a lot quicker than we did the first half of this evening. So ordering tefillin. Number one, you got to do it ASAP. You got to get it done. I was hoping to make a whole presentation without mentioning COVID, but I do have to mention that someone told me that since COVID, just like everything else is backed up, tefillin also, and shipments, and so I don't know that for a fact. But either way, your son is 12 already, you must order his tefillin. Number two, plan to have them in advance. It's very normal for a sefer to tell you, sorry, there's a delay, it's not ready. So plan to have them in advance, and I strongly suggest that you tell them an earlier date. Not that you have to lie about when your son's birthday is. When you order the tefillin, he said, what day do you need it by? Say 4 months before your son's bar mitzvah. That's the day I need it. You don't have to lie about when his birthday is. This is the day I want it, I'm your customer, I'm paying. This is the day I want it. So then if there's a week delay, 2 week delay, a month delay, it's still a month before his Nachas tefillin. Because I could tell you, boys who have their Nachas tefillin and don't have their own pair of tefillin, it is so annoying for them. It's a really, really big headache. They really don't like it. They borrow from their cousin and Zal, they leave it, I don't remember his code, they come late. It's a massive headache that no boy should ever have to go through. And he's getting his tefillin anyway. Order it now, have it on time. It will make a very big difference, and he'll be excited about his Nachas tefillin instead of it being such a big headache. Do your own research when you order tefillin to make sure that you're buying good pure tefillin with a good hechsher, and it's, from a good sefer, from Yerei Shemayim. When I spoke to Seifrim about ordering tefillin for a bar mitzvah, so many Seifrim mentioned this idea to me, and I'm calling it buyer's remorse. They said very often parents buy tefillin for their son's bar mitzvah. They were in Israel, or they walked into a store and they bought tefillin without doing research. What does it cost? Is it mohudder? Is it, who was the sefer? Yerei Shemayim. And then this boy gets older, and he's a Chassidish Bacher, and he has Yerei Shemayim, and he's 18 years old, and he goes to check his tefillin by himself. Or he's a chassan, and he's about to get married, and he goes to check his tefillin, and segate the man, he really cares, something he didn't think about till now. He wants to know if his tefillin are good. And he goes to the sefer, and the sefer says, by the way, your tefillin are only kosher b'di'evet, or they're not mahadrin. And the boy's like, what? I never realized for 10 years I've been putting on tefillin that are only kosher b'di'evet. And he goes back to his parents, and he says, what kind of tefillin do you get me? And his parents are like, I don't know, we bought it in the store. And the Safram told me that there are Bachram, they get really upset about it. They really care, Baruch Hashem, and they're very disappointed and upset at their parents 5 or 10 years later when they're 23 years old that the tefillin they had all along was cheap and not quality. So it's important to keep that in mind because this is an investment, a pure tefillin that your son will wear, Mitzvah Hashem, for many, many years to come. There are many Safrim here in Crown Heights who are willing to show you the process of how the tefillin are made, and it's very meaningful if you see how your own tefillin are made. You have more of an attachment to it, and there's different levels of what certain Safrim will offer you here. So first of all, there's a batim macher. Batim is the house that the tefillin are in. It's called batim, and as far as I know, they're only made in Israel. There's only one person in the whole United States of America who makes batim here, and that is Mendel, all time together with his father here on President Street, and that's his phone number. And he has he works there making tefillin, and he's happy to show it. We've brought classes there in the past. Individuals went there. You could order your batim by him. He's happy to show you that process. He's a batim acher. Very unusual. There are safrim, if you hire somebody to write your tefillin and they're being written here in Crown Heights, your son could go to watch his own tefillin being written. Now, even if you work with a sefer who's hiring you, sefer in Israel, who's writing it, and it's kosher and mahadrin and everything, very often the sefer here in Crown Heights will offer that you come in when the tefillin arrive, he puts it into the bias, into the batim, and they have to sew it shut and paint it. He can show you that last part. Any step that your son will see of his own tefillin being made is that much more meaningful. So that's about ordering tefillin. Now let's talk about tefillin bags. We're also having a raffle on that later. So first of all, also order with enough time in advance. Why should your son not have his tefillin bag? They're excited about their tefillin bags. Let him have it on time. Number two, sometimes parents ask me, that's why I'm putting it up here. I'm not trying to promote new trends or anything. It's standard now that everybody gets leather tefillin. So maybe many of you here in the crowd, you got a velvet tefillin bag, and you maybe believe that why should my son be different? He should get velvet like I got velvet, and who needs leather? But at this point, it's too late. It's standard that leather, talis bags, and tefillin bags is the standard. So your son's going to want one, and I hope you could do it for him because that's what all his friends are going to have. There are some boys who are going to go and customize it and their favorite colors and whatever else. I don't think that's needed at all. I'm not trying to give anyone parnasa, take away parnasa from anybody, but it's certainly not needed to do anything extravagant. The standard tefillin bags available they're beautiful the way they come. Just go add your name to it and you're good to go. This is something really smart they started doing on the tefillin bags, that the embroidery, besides having his name in Hebrew on the outside, and the inside of the tefillin bag, they put his name and a phone number and an email address. And you could do that in the big tefillin bag, and then also in the Rashi bag and Rabbeinu Tam bag. And because Bachram eventually go on Sayim, and it's very common for the tefillin to be separated, all the time you probably see on WhatsApp a picture of someone's tefillin left on a train and it's in initials, or even if it's a Hebrew name and his name is Moshe Weiss, who's this guy? Nobody knows who he is. For a couple of extra dollars, you pay for the embroidery, whatever it costs you per letter, you put the phone number, the email address, the name in English in the inside, and you open it and it has the boy's contact information. That money is a great, best insurance policy that if these tefillin are lost and found by somebody honest, they will be returned to you without any problems. Hat and jacket has to be purchased ahead of the Nachas tefillin. So in Aliyah, as part of a Hasidic yeshiva, our dress code is that the boys should have a black or navy solid jacket. And you also have to buy a suit for his bar mitzvah, so also something you should do in advance. Talking about anxiety, a boy will be anxious if a suit is not ready, and there's no reason for that. He's not, mom is growing in sizes, that quickly. So you could have the suit ready a month before his bar mitzvah, and he'll be so happy, and he'll try it on 10 times. He'll be hanging there. He knows it's ready. It's kedai to do that. Pretty standard is you buy a cheaper hat for your son weekday because it does get beaten up. They put it down, they leave it, they throw it, they drop it. And you could buy a nicer one for Shabbos if you would like, and for the bar mitzvah, and that one remains as a Shabbos hat. When you're planning the bar mitzvah, and this is something you're all doing now already, you need to choose the date for when you're going to make the bar mitzvah celebration. So a couple of points about that. Number one is, Minhag Chabad is clearly to make the bar mitzvah the night following the birthday. So if somebody's birthday was today, Tuesday, Beis Shvat, his bar mitzvah would be right now, the night following his birthday. That's the ideal time. There's very few hayrayos written clearly in Sefer Menagim by the Rebbe about bar mitzvah. This is one of them. If the bar mitzvah boy's birthday was today, the bar mitzvah is supposed to be now, the night following his bar mitzvah. If you can't do it tonight for some reason, maybe it's Friday night, and you don't want to do a Friday night bar mitzvah, you can do it last night, which is also the night of his bar mitzvah, or to the day of his bar mitzvah. Last night, if the boy's birthday was Beis Shvat, last night was already his birthday as well, and it's on the day of his bar mitzvah. That's the second best time to make the bar mitzvah. If you're making the bar mitzvah at a later date for some reason, his bar mitzvah is on Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, in the summer, we'll talk about the summer soon. For whatever reason, your bar mitzvah is not being made on the day of his bar mitzvah. So it's important that you're boy bayayim on the day of his bar mitzvah, you gather together 10 people, and he says the maimer, and you have a little celebration, something that the Rebbe instructed many people to make sure that on the day of the bar mitzvah, there's the boy bayayim celebration that takes place with at least 1 million of people. Now, Kanai Nahara, we have in this grade over 140 Talmidim, and in 6 different classes, which makes it easier. And it's very likely that there are boys who have the same birthday, or even if they don't have the same exact birthday, it's very likely that 2 of you are having in mind the same night to make a bar mitzvah. Like one boy's bar mitzvah is on Shabbos, and they don't want to make a Shabbos bar mitzvah, so they're making Sunday night. And another boy's bar mitzvah is on Sunday, and his bar mitzvah is going to be Sunday night. Or maybe his birthday is Monday, and they were also thinking of making a Sunday night bar mitzvah. So even if there's boys in the same class who don't share the exact same birthday, it's very likely that you have in mind to plan the bar mitzvah celebration for the same exact night. Now that's a huge problem. We've had it happen in the past, and we only realized after the invitations were printed, and it becomes a very big problem when you have 2 bar mitzvahs, one in, let's say, Lulav Yeshiva, and one in Aliyah, same class, same night. Where do the boys go, and what's if one boy is more popular and one boy is a little less popular, and we have to get involved, and we have to make sure that it was done properly, and we got a van, the parents chipped in, 12 boys went here, 12 boys went here, then a van switched them over. We try to make the best of it, but it's really not an ideal situation, and it's certainly avoidable. Therefore, tonight, after this event, I'm going to share a Google form with you, and we're going to ask everybody, and then to put in what night you have in mind to make your son's bar mitzvah. And then we will share the results. It will be public information. You're not sharing much. Just your son's birthday, his name, and what night you have in mind to make his bar mitzvah. And then we'll share the information with everybody, plus I'll look it over. And we will see if we have 2 boys making a bar mitzvah the same night. Now to be clear, if you're making a bar mitzvah the same night as a boy from another class, it's not a problem at all. I like it when I have to leave my house and I go to Lulav Yeshiva, JCM, Aliyah, and I do 3 bar mitzvahs in one night. For me, it's easier. And for the boys, it's not a problem. But if it's 2 boys from the same class, it is a big problem, and it shouldn't happen. And therefore, we're going to try to facilitate avoiding that. We've done this in the past. You fill out the Google form. We realize 2 boys planning it on the same night, and then it's something that's avoidable. And times when I had to get involved, parents said, if only I knew, I would have not made it that night. You think I dafka needed that night, but what could I do? I already booked this appointment and that, and the hall and the photographer. Invitations are printed. Now I can't change it. But had I known, I would have been Michael. I would have moved to another day. I'm flexible. So it's just a shame not to know in advance. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. And the spreadsheet will be shared publicly. Now let's talk about planning the celebration. So first of all, you can reserve in advance. You already know the date that you're planning on making the bar mitzvah. There's no reason not to book the venue of your bar mitzvah now. And I'll tell you why their reason is to. Because there's so many events in Crown Heights right now. Obviously, l'chaims and weddings, people don't know that much in advance. But you know how many events there are right now for Junior Neshe and mikvah.org and this Bainei Eilam, Kanai Nahara must. I'm just thinking of all the recent things I saw. Kanai Nahara every night. My wife is telling me she has an event to go to. And they're booking the halls. And they might have booked, they're going to book halls for their auctions and their events and their webinars and seminars, whatever it may be. And you're going to want to make a bar mitzvah and the hall is gone. You know your son's bar mitzvah right now. There's no reason that you don't go on the website of that particular hall right now and reserve your date, or wait a little till we share the dates, and you book it, and you have your date, and you know that you're making your bar mitzvah when you want to, and it doesn't turn into a crisis later. So what you need to book is a hall, a caterer, a musician, a photographer, and I do want to mention, I'm not here to promote any establishment, but just want to mention it as a resource. The Lubavitch Yeshiva, Crown Street, does have a bar mitzvah package. So it's one fee, and you just pay that one fee, and they give you a choice. Which caterer do you want, which musician, which photographer, which videographer, and they put together the whole bar mitzvah for you. Should we do a question? Yeah. It's already booked. It's coming October. It's already booked. Who booked it? You don't know. Probably an organization or another bar mitzvah. Another bar mitzvah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to talk soon about out of the neighborhood bar mitzvahs because it comes with a challenge. But I think you would have to ask, not me, somebody else. I think there's a Rav the Rebbe to make bar mitzvahs locally, and Simchas and Crown Heights. So you would run into a problem over there, never mind the school or busing the kids. And there should be multiple halls available. There are a couple of halls available. And you could also do the night before, if it works for you. Yeah. And I do want to mention, besides for 140 plus boys in this grade, there's at least another 75 boys the same exact age who are attending other yeshivas here in Crown Heights. So the nights are going to be grabbed. That's why I'm recommending put it on your to-do list and take care of it tomorrow. Honestly, go ahead and book your night. And then if you need to work it out with another mother in your class to change it, the hall will let you change the date. They're not going to care. I'll take one more question, but then in advance, I want to say I'd rather do questions at the end so whoever doesn't want to hear them could just move on. It's going to be a long event. Of course, yeah. Goes without saying, but thank you for saying it. And could be I haven't mentioned there. But nobody should be excluded, 100%. Okay, so the Lubavitch Yeshiva has a bar mitzvah package. And one thing I want to tell you after speaking to the Lubavitch Yeshiva is that they said some people don't know, most people don't know this. You could take advantage of this. Let's say your son's bar mitzvah is in 15 months from now and you book the date now. You can make a payment plan with them. For some people it's easier. You're going to pay $500 a month, $300 a month, whatever it is, from now till then. Then when the bar mitzvah comes, you're not slammed with this big bill. Plus, remember, you have the Tefillin and the hat and jacket and the suit and the Tefillin bags, and everything costs. And it's a pretty penny at the end of the day. So the whole, Lubavitch Yeshiva is very happy. You give them a credit card number, you give them a monthly payment plan, and your bar mitzvah could be in 18 months from now. And by that time, it was same money, but it was paid off slowly. It's, for a lot of people, that works. Lubavitch Yeshiva bar mitzvah package comes with a standard package, and then they allow you, if you want, you could do like an upgrade. For example, they don't provide a bottle of wine for each table. That's something you could add, or different things like that. You need to prepare invitations for the bar mitzvah. And here I want to add that every single boy in the class should be invited. I'm going to talk about that. A lot of boys invite all their previous rebbes. I think it's a very nice thing to do. And I see at bar mitzvahs that if the previous rebbes were invited, they'll actually come out. The 6th grade rebbe, he just had this boy for 10 months last year. He maybe even knows the Talmud better than the 7th grade rebbe, in Cheshvan. And if he gets invited, I'm sure he's happy to come. And it's a very nice thing to do. For the class, to hang one in the class is enough. You don't have to print 30 extra invitations for him to give each friend one. A lot of boys like to. It's becoming the minig, but it doesn't have to become the minig. When I was a kid, every boy brought one invitation, and you hung it on the wall in your classroom, and that invited everybody, and of course, everyone has to be invited. When you plan the celebration, when you print the invitations, bar mitzvahs are often called for 7 o'clock or for 7:30. So what I want to mention about that is that realistically, no bar mitzvahs start before 8 o'clock. Realistically. The only people who come at 7 o'clock, if the invitation says 7 o'clock, is nobody. But 6:59, the whole entire class will be there at 6:59. So if you call the bar mitzvah for 7, you're not going to gain anything other than for an extra hour, the classmates are there, wandering around, doing absolutely nothing. Baruch Hashem, the boys behave, and we don't have a lot of issues with boys misbehaving at bar mitzvahs at all, and we talk about it in school a lot, and of course we want you to talk about it, and we're going to get to that. But there's no point. So if you're realistically going to start 8:15, which is the latest you should start as well, you might as well call your bar mitzvah for 7:30. You have nothing to lose. And a lot of people prepare benchers for a bar mitzvah and a chura for the bar mitzvah. So this is what you have to do. You have to reserve the hall now, and then cater a musician, photographer. Either it's included in the hall or not, but you can wait for that. And make invitations, benchers, and a chura. So we spoke about parents need to order the tefillin. We spoke many details about that. Tefillin bags, hat and jacket, suit, choosing the date, and planning the event. Now let's talk about what it means to make a Nachas tefillin for your son. So firstly, the Nachas tefillin is done 2 months before his bar mitzvah. That's our minhag of when your son should start wearing tefillin. Now, even though the day of the Nachas tefillin is the first day that he davens shachris in his tefillin, I haven't seen anything for this or against this. I'm just mentioning that some people at home, not for davening, will practice putting on tefillin so that when they come to shul the first day, they already have a little familiar with how to put on the tefillin, something that I think could be done. I haven't seen that you're supposed to or that you're not supposed to, so I'm mentioning it. The Rebbe did mention, not at night, thanks. The Rebbe did mention that you could deduct the days of Yom Tov that you lost. So if let's say a boy's bar mitzvah is going to be, Yud Tammuz. So if you go 2 months before on Yud Iyar, he's missing 2 days of Shavuos, Shavuos was on a Tuesday, Wednesday, so you could do his Nachas on Ches Iyar to make up for the 2 days of weekdays of Shavuos that he missed. So you could do 2 months minus 2 days in that particular case. With Sukkot and Pesach, you're doing much more than that. When does the boy start making the bracha? He does not make a bracha on the day of his Nachas tefillin. He's supposed to put on tefillin without a bracha, and there is no set date. Sometimes people make things up. 1 month in, 2 weeks in, there is no set date of when you're supposed to start making the bracha. The only clear instruction, Haira, of when you're supposed to start making a bracha is when the boy is good enough at putting on tefillin that it's not a hefsek and it's not a bracha of a tala. Because if he makes a bracha and then he has to ask his father and he has to try and make the knot and restart, then you are not allowed to make a bracha. As soon as he is smooth enough and comfortable enough, confident enough to put on his tefillin properly, that's when he can make a bracha. For one boy, it could be a week after his Nachas tefillin. For one boy, it could be 8 weeks after his Nachas tefillin by his bar mitzvah, or a middle. And that's the only rule I know about when you're supposed to start making the bracha. Most boys appropriately make their Nachas tefillin in 770 or at the oil. And there have been boys who made their Nachas tefillin in yeshiva, but it's not the usual. If you want to, for some reason, you can. But that's not the usual. There's plenty of people who fly in from all over the world to make their Nachas tefillin in 770 or at the oil. Certainly that's a place to go to do it. Now when you make the Nachas tefillin, after the Nachas tefillin, you make a small celebration, cake, ragalach, juice, a little l'chaim, and he says the one ice, he says the first ice of the bar mitzvah maimer. He says it for whoever's gathered over there after the Nachas tefillin. Most boys on the day of their Nachas tefillin, after Shachris, they will go to the oil with their father, with their mother, with their family. They'll go to the oil and they'll come to school that afternoon. And then we celebrate the Nachas tefillin in class. In class, the Nachas tefillin is celebrated like a birthday. Just like we have a birthday rule in Torah where it's just a mazoinus and a drink. So the Nachas tefillin is the same thing. The boy comes with donuts or danishes, black and whites, a mazoinus and a drink. And the class will sing the Maimer Nigin. He'll say the first ice, and then he'll give it out as if it was his birthday. We don't bring mashka to yeshiva. Maybe when you were a kid, you brought mashka and you went around to all your teachers. We don't want to have that. So you can bring the boys can bring grape juice and give l'chaim. Many boys like to go around to all their previous teachers, and they like to go around to all their cousins and second cousins and shulmates. And you don't only need 25 danishes, you need more like 55. And it's a very exciting event for the boys. In yeshiva, we give every boy on the day of their Nachas tefillin a small little gift, something for their tefillin bag. The kavanah you're supposed to have when you put on tefillin, the Alter Rebbe writes in Shulchan Aruch. So we have it printed nicely. Kahas sells it. We give it to every boy on the day of their Nachas tefillin. And the rule is that in order for the boy to get used to davening with tefillin, we allow them to miss 1 week of yeshiva, shachris, and shachris only. So if a bar mitzvah boy, if his Nachas tefillin is on Tuesday, then he's allowed to miss yeshiva Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, including Tuesday, va'ad b'chlal, and he could go daven with his father. You don't have to call for special permission. It's granted, it's built in, it's official, and like this he could get used to wearing tefillin. However, during that week, it would make no sense that he davens 10 o'clock and only comes to yeshiva 12 and misses the whole Gemara and the whole morning learning. The idea is that instead of davening 8 o'clock a.m. in yeshiva, he'll daven 8 o'clock a.m. somewhere else with his father, brother, uncle, someone who's going to help him. And if you go to work really early or you're not available for whatever reason, he could come to yeshiva. We have staff at Shachris, and we're more than happy to help your son with his phone if he needs help. It's not a problem at all. He should be on time but for 1 week he's allowed to miss Shachris. Permission is granted. It's very common that the class chips in together to get a class gift. So the class collectively chips in and they buy a gift for each boy and they give it to them at the bar mitzvah, and it's nice. And usually the minig was that you buy a Rambam La'am. It's quite expensive. Maybe now we do a different set. When I was a kid, it was very hectic because every bar mitzvah, there was a different kid in charge, collecting $5, harassing everybody. The minig became lately that usually one class parent, usually one class mother, steps forward. She collects it in the beginning of the year. Everybody gives a one-time fee. It's easy with Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, however. Essentially, you're buying your own gift if you didn't realize. And she has all the money. And then what I recommend, if you're that class parent, you have all the money, you go to a store and you negotiate. You say, I'm buying 25 sets, and I took $100 from a parent. You should get at least a $125 set because you're buying 25 of them, and you could order it in advance. And let the store hold on to them, and then your son will go before each bar mitzvah and pick up one set at a time. They wrap it, you bring it to the bar mitzvah. It's the easiest way to do it. So if somebody volunteers, that's the most ideal and easiest way to get it done. Now, we did the Nachas Tefillin, we already bought the gift. We're holding the day of the bar mitzvah. On the day of the bar mitzvah, it is a minig, and the Rebbe wrote this to people in a letter, to go to the aisle on the day of the bar mitzvah. And after davening in the morning, this is one of the things clearly in Sefer Menhagim, you're supposed to make a small gathering for your family. This is the quote from Sefer Menhagim. Menhagi Lubavitch. Achrei tefillah shachris, misasvim biyachad, you gather. Hoyrei bar mitzvah imri milos achadis l'chvei da simcha. The parents of the bar mitzvah boy say a couple of words, and the bar mitzvah boy says his maimer, and you get lekach, which is cake, and mashka. Uva'erev, that evening is when you make the celebration. Now that celebration does not have to have 10 people. That celebration can have just small family. It only has to have 10 people. Remember, if you're celebrating the bar mitzvah at a later date, that's your Boy B'Yayim celebration, you have to have a minyan. Otherwise, it could be just the father and the brother and the mother. It could be at home, and it could be outside the aisle. It could be in 770. It could be anywhere. And that's the minhag to do on the day of the bar mitzvah. Now let's talk about the actual bar mitzvah celebration. So first of all, the bar mitzvah is a su'udas mitzvah. It's a special event. You have to wash. It's not a pizza party. It's a sudas mitzvah. You're celebrating that this boy, like the things we spoke about at the beginning of tonight's event, this boy is becoming mechuyev in all the mitzvahs. It has to be a Hasidic event. We're a Hasidic yeshiva. We're a Hasidic community. We want it to stay that way. And when our boys go to bar mitzvah, we owe it to each other that when we're the producers of the event, we're the hosts of that event, that we make it a Hasidic event. Values in line with the yeshiva, with the other parents in the class, with the other boys in the class. And that's what a bar mitzvah is supposed to look like. This is a quote from the Rebbe, where the question over here was, somebody asked the Rebbe if they should make their bar mitzvah a private event or a public event. Should they make it private or public? Maybe make a little private thing, maybe it's beautiful. To which the Rebbe answered, for sure you should make it a public event. You're celebrating Kabbalah Sol Mitzvahs. This is like the day of his chuppah, it's his Matan Torah, it's Chanukah Zabayis. For sure it should be public. But then the Rebbe added, and here you have a clear quote from the Rebbe, what a bar mitzvah is supposed to look like. The Rebbe says, Muvan, she'ein kavanasi bahana levazviz ma'is, even though I'm telling you to make a money event, I'm not encouraging you to splurge, to waste your money. Ela shetia, this is what it should be. Mesiba Toiranis chasidusis. I'll say those words again because I want you to walk away with these words, please. Mesiba Toiranis chasidusis. It should be a Toiratika chasidisha event. And what should the people do there? The people who are mishtatev should wish your son, she'yigadel yisirei shamayim, chased v'lamdin. And in other letters, the Rebbe speaks about that Torah has to be shared at the bar mitzvah by the father, and by the bar mitzvah boy with the maimer and with the pilpul. That's what a bar mitzvah is supposed to look like. It's a sudas mitzvah, it's a chasidish event, and it's a mesiba, Toiranis, chasidusis, and it's supposed to be in public, and you're supposed to invite the friends and family, and you don't have to waste your money either. We're celebrating that this boy is now a mitzvah v'aisa, that he has to keep all 613 mitzvahs. There are quite a few minus of the Rebbe where people said, well, maybe we're going to go to Israel, we're going to do a trip, we're going to go to a family heritage, kfarim, different ideas people had, and the Rebbe always rejected those ideas, and the Rebbe always said to celebrate the bar mitzvah locally with friends and family, and that it's better than a trip. Here I have one answer that I put up on the screen, and that is that if you look at the Rebbe writes here, Nisiyusam to Israel, Ratzui V'shuv, is even, if, I'm going to read it in English, but if you could follow along in the Hebrew. Even if it's just the parents and the bar mitzvah boy, it's going to cost at least $1,500, whatever year the Rebbe wrote this, a lot of years ago. You wish you could go to Israel for $1,500. This is for 3 tickets, but then it was a lot of money. The Rebbe says that certainly it's a schus gadol that the bar mitzvah, they should not allow themselves to waste money and to spend such a sum on going to Israel. And they should make the bar mitzvah specifically here, and that all his friends should be able to be mishtatif. And it should be through limit Torah, and then that day he should go to the oil, v'chulu v'chulu. Don't travel anywhere, don't waste your money, don't go to Israel. Make an event here, make a public event. Your friends should be mishtatif, there should be limit Torah. Don't waste your money either. With the right balance, you make a nice, beautiful bar mitzvah, and should be b'shah taiva, mitzvahs. That is clearly the Rebbe's Hayra. This is just one answer that I put up on the screen. There are many, many minus of the Rebbe. There was even a story where an organization wanted to take Yosaimim on the day of the bar mitzvah, take them on a trip, or they thought it was a very beautiful idea, and it sounds like it. They wrote into the Rebbe, and the Rebbe rejected the idea. On the day of the bar mitzvah is not a day to go touring, to amusement parks or anything. You have to make a sudas mitzvah, you have to share divrei Torah, you have to wish them to be a chasir shemaim v'lamdin. There's more important things for the day of the bar mitzvah. On the day of the bar mitzvah boy has to give tzedakah. Now, I've seen at many bar mitzvahs that people put tzedakah on all the tables. I'm sure it's a beautiful thing. I just didn't find the source for it. But of course, giving tzedakah you could always do. There's a source in the Torah to give tzedakah. By a wedding, there's a clear Hayra of the Rebbe that at the wedding there should be a pushka on each table, and that all the mishtatzim should give tzedakah l'schus l'chasam akala. Clear. By bar mitzvah, I haven't seen it. It seems like the minhag transferred, because lately, not lately, I mean, I've been going to bar mitzvahs, and you too as well, and you see pushkas on tables. It could be a beautiful thing to do, but that the bar mitzvah boy should give tzedakah on the day of his bar mitzvah, that's something that's supposed to happen. People ask me about this, that's why I'm putting it up there. There is an option. You could sometimes hire the bar mitzvah boys' counselor or a bacher that they know somehow to be with the bar mitzvah boys and sit them with their friends at the bar mitzvah. But you do not need it. Baruch Hashem, really, we have a lot of nachas. For the most part, 99% of the bar mitzvahs, the boys really behave beautifully at the bar mitzvahs. We talk a lot about it in yeshiva. I do, the teachers do. And of course, we'll ask you to talk about it to your sons as well, what you expect of them as your child when they go out in public to a bar mitzvah, how to behave, how to take food, how to wait in line, how to come and go, how to dance, how to be safe, how to be mature, how to be respectful, all the regular talk that a parent should be having with their child. There is no need to hire anybody, but if you want to, we can. Sometimes there's a bar mitzvah in a Chabad house, and the parents are particularly worried. What will the people in the Chabad house think? They need the boys to behave very well. For that, I've encouraged shluchim, instead of hiring a bacher to sit with the class, I invite you to come to the class 2 days before the bar mitzvah. Say, I'm a shliach in the Lower East Side, and we're making a bar mitzvah, and it's not just a bar mitzvah. Here it's also a Chabad event. And for people, they're going to look at you, and these talks, they really help. Chinuch helps. And makes a big difference. So really it's about speaking to the boys in advance at home and in school. There's no need to hire anybody to sit with them, to be with them, to make sure to behave. If you give the right environment, if you make it a Mesiba Teranis Chasidusis, they know how to do exactly that, and that's how they behave. This is what the schedule of the actual bar mitzvah, the actual evening of the bar mitzvah looks like. So number one I want to put up there is that you as the parent of the bar mitzvah boy, it's your event. You're running the event. And very often the father is the MC of the bar mitzvah, so you're emceeing the event. Now, it's happened very often. I go to bar mitzvah and everybody's just waiting around. We're doing nothing and nothing and nothing. The father, he's a working man. He goes to work every single day. Maybe he's even a boss. He's busy, but he doesn't run events. And he hasn't run an event. He's not a teacher. He's not a principal. He's not a head counselor. And he's not a party planner. And he's just like wondering. He's like waiting for the event to start. It will not start. You need to start the event. You have to tell the musician, play the song. You have to take the mic and say, welcome everybody, please sit down. The bar mitzvah is starting. You need to tell the waiter, serve the soup now, serve the soup later. You're in charge of the event. If you're making the bar mitzvah, it's your event. It does not run on its own, and you don't have to hire party planners. You just need to have a schedule and be on top of it and stick to it. Or ask your brother-in-law, your brother to be the MC, and don't only ask them to be the MC. Ask them to run the event. Start at this time, introduce this. After you introduce him, it should trigger telling the waiter to serve the soup. The musician should be told only 20 minutes, things like that. It's your event, you're going to run it. If you don't run it, it doesn't run. And sometimes I'm at a bar mitzvah, it's like 9 o'clock, it didn't start. And the father's like, should I start? I'm like, for sure, please do. And so for no reason that it didn't start. Ask family to come on time. People ignore. It says 7 o'clock in the invitation, right? 6:30, nobody's going to come. But if you private message your family, you put on the family chat, we're really starting by 8:15 or by 8 o'clock. You're our family. We don't care if our friends and guests are there. We're waiting for family. Please show up by 8. We want you there. They'll come. Family will honor it, and you get started at 8 o'clock. And bar mitzvahs in the winter usually start off with Ma'ariv. Bar mitzvah boy likes to be the shliach tzibur very often, right before you sit down to the formal bar mitzvah. In the summer, Ma'ariv's tricky because often you can't daven Ma'ariv yet, and then you daven Ma'ariv in the middle of the bar mitzvah, after the bar mitzvah. But for a big part of the year, you start off the bar mitzvah with Ma'ariv. The first thing that takes place at the bar mitzvah, the MC, of course, opens up and welcomes everybody, and then he introduces somebody to read the Rebbe's letter. It's always very nice if the father got his own letter of the Rebbe, here's bar mitzvah, or the Zayda, that you bring some original letter from a family member. It makes it more special. And then goes, after the letter, the first thing that happens is the Maimer, before any speeches. The Maimer, recommended time, the latest the Maimer should start is 8:15, which means the bar mitzvah should be starting around 8 o'clock. You welcome everybody, say some warm words. You do the Rebbe's letter. Some people also do the Rebbe's kapitel. Then you introduce the bar mitzvah boy's Maimer. You sing the Maimer Niggin. 8:15, the bar mitzvah boy has to be saying already Isa b'medrash Tilim. If a bar mitzvah boy says his Maimer well, then it's going to take 15 minutes for him to say the Maimer. I forgot to speak about it by practicing the Maimer. I skipped that bullet. But bar mitzvah boys, they chazir Maimer balpad. They know it inside out. They could speed. And a lot of boys, they only practice at speeding. And then when we come to the bar mitzvah, they speed, and it doesn't sound nice, and it doesn't sound appropriate. They're only going to say it beautifully at the bar mitzvah if when you hear them and you chazer with them, you practice. Isa b'medrash Tilim, Rabbi Aliyah zeraimer, with the tune, with the chayas. You have to do it right, and then it's a beautiful thing, and it could take between 10 and 15 minutes for the Maimer. After the Maimer goes the first dance. It doesn't have to be more than 20 minutes, and you have to tell that to the musician. Otherwise, they're happy to play away. And during the first dance is what I recommend, that you ask the caterer to put on the class's table their main course. A lot of times kids have a different main course, the same main course, just put it there. So when the dancing is over and they sit down, they're not looking for their food or flagging down the waiter. Their food is there and they sit down, they eat, and then everybody sits down. The waiter serves everybody and gives them their choice of soup or whatever, however you're having the bar mitzvah. Then after the first dance is the meal. During the meal is when the speeches would take place. There's a hayirah that the father, the bar mitzvah boy, should say a few words at the bar mitzvah. Some fathers don't like to. They're also stage fright, but it's good to do it. And that's when you'll invite the grandfather to speak. You don't have to have a lot of speeches, but that's when the bar mitzvah boy will say his pilpul. That's when he'll make his siyum mishnayos. That's when he'll make his speech. That's all during the speech. And then a lot of people then will do a second dance and then benching. But lately you see this in Crown Heights a lot by weddings, and I think by bar mitzvahs would be right to do it as well. You could bench and then do the second dance, because people leave during the dance and then they forget to bench. So you might as well just do the meal, do all the speeches, do the formal benching, and then you could do like another dance, and you could serve a dessert, and whoever wants to eat dessert will have to make a bracha. You could do something like that. During the main course, while the boys are sitting and then there's a lot of speeches, you could ask the caterer to also then serve them the dessert right away. Father's speech, then there's the second dance, Berchas HaMazayin. Classmates need to leave by 10 p.m., and the only one who can enforce that is the parents. So let me clarify something. First of all, if you think your son's going to 25 bar mitzvahs next year, that's a mistake. He might have 25 boys in his class, but every boy now goes to on average 45 bar mitzvahs a year. They go to their whole classmates' bar mitzvah. They used to be in a different class. They used to go to that bungalow colony. They now go to this bungalow colony. They have a class shul. They sit near each other, Rosh Hashanah, Kippur, and 770, all kinds of yichus. And I ask boys, you're not in this class. Why are you here? Oh, yeah, we live in Crown Condo, whatever it is. So boys are going to 45 bar mitzvahs on average. That's a lot of nights. How many nights of school do we have? If you're going to let your son go to sleep 12 o'clock at night, 45 nights of the year, you really killed his year. You really, really ruined his year for him. And there's no reason for it. Bar mitzvah should start at 8 o'clock. They should end at 10 o'clock. And even if they don't end at 10 o'clock, the friends should leave at 10 o'clock. Now, I'm not going to be there. The teachers are not going to be there. We're not going to chase the kids out. It's not something that we can enforce over there. It's something that the parents need to enforce. And my parents did it to me. And you need to tell your son, I want you leaving the bar mitzvah at 10 o'clock. We live here and there, so you need to be home by 10:10. You need to be home by 10:15. This time, you need to be home. You're the parents. They're your child. You got to take responsibility. And I know there's class chats, and I know they're often misused. We're not talking about that. But this is a great way to use the class chat. Parents will get together and decide, we're all telling our sons to be home at 10:10. Everybody here doesn't want to be that nerd. Your kid is very good at telling you, Ma, you're so mean, you're the only one, everybody else stays, you always don't make you sound like the most restrictive parent, the meanest parent, and you don't care for them. Really, you care for them. And honestly, to me, it's mind-boggling. You see boys going on from bar mitzvah 11, 12 o'clock at night, walking on the street themselves. It's the same parent who called me yesterday. They were upset in yeshiva. The substitute left them for a minute. And here the kids walking 12 o'clock at night down Kingston Avenue. I really don't get it. I really don't get it. And anything that we need to improve in yeshiva, we try to. But how could we allow children to walk down Kingston Avenue in today's environment, 11:30 at night, even with one friend? It's terrible. It's terrible. It's not safe for what might happen to them. It's not safe for what they might see. And it's not good for them to go to sleep so late. They need sleep. It's the most important thing we could do for their well-being. They'll behave better the next day. They'll be on time. They'll be in a good place. So therefore, I hope this meeting could do it, because I'm not going to be at the bar mitzvahs to chase the boys out at 10 o'clock. Strongly want to encourage this grade, this 6th grade, that next year from the very first bar mitzvah, you all remind each other in the chats. You tell your sons, be on by 10 o'clock, the boys leave. They'll be there from 7:30 to 10 o'clock. It's a long time. Remember, if you lived in out of town and you had 3 boys in your class, I wouldn't mind if the day of the bar mitzvah school ended early and the next day school started late, and they even went to the Nachas Tefillin. It's only 3 bar mitzvahs. You live in the middle of nowhere. These boys are going to 45 bar mitzvahs minimum, bli guzma. They're going to 45 bar mitzvahs. That's very, very often. That's very, very often. It's too often, and it needs to be managed. If you're making a bar mitzvah out of town, what I mean by out of town, about 15% of our Talmidim are not from Crown Heights. They're either from Manhattan, Long Island, Staten Island, or even within Brooklyn, but South Brooklyn or Brighton Beach or different areas. So the bar mitzvah sometimes takes place in their, locally for them. And the parents need to arrange transportation for the bar mitzvah boys' classmates to come. So first of all, please hire safe transportation. Don't just go to 770 and take some bacher you never met and give them a van. Got to hire a car service or a bus driver, somebody who's insured, licensed, could do a proper job. And also, it's important that there's somebody on the bus with them who's a chaperone. You can't have 25 kids on a bus traveling an hour and there's nobody with them. They need to have one adult with them at least. It could be a bacher who's 20 years old, but somebody with them. It's very important. And you remember, you're the host. It's not really a school event. So parents sometimes call me, the bar mitzvah tonight, do you know what time the bus is leaving, where it's leaving from? I don't know. I was never given that information. If you're the mother, the father, hosting a bar mitzvah an hour away from Crown Heights and you arrange the bus, you have to put out a note about it, or on WhatsApp, you message the parents, this is when we're leaving, this is who the driver will be, this is the chaperone, this is a number in case of emergency, this is what time we'll be back. You have to share the information with everybody. I want to talk for a moment about Sfira bar mitzvahs. Some people postpone a bar mitzvah and Sfira just for the reason that there's no music. But I want to say that I've been to so many Sfira bar mitzvahs, and if you just hire a singer or a choir, and some singers come with like one sound beat, they say a Rav allows it, so you could do your own research about that. You could have a beautiful bar mitzvah on Sfira by Bayayim, and the boys will dance, but don't do it without a singer, because if there's no singer and no music and nobody to lead, it's taka very strange bar mitzvah. But if you hire a singer or a choir instead of a musician, you can have a beautiful bar mitzvah even in Sfira. What happens if your son's bar mitzvah is during the summer? It's going to happen to a lot of people. So first of all, remember that you need to do the Bai Bayayim celebration. So at minimum, you need to go to him in camp on the day of his bar mitzvah and gather 10 people, it could be his bunkmates, and make a little bar mitzvah. That's a minimum what you must do. Now, what are the options for making the bar mitzvah celebration? Some people just make it in camp. Some people will make a regular bar mitzvah. I'm saying regular, like in a home, music, musician, and they'll do it in the Catskills. And some people will do it in the city in the middle of the summer. They'll pull their kid out of camp, they'll make a regular bar mitzvah here in the city. And for the classmates, there was something in camp, a little special, extra something at breakfast that day or the next day. They'll do it during the summer in any one of these places. Some people will push off their bar mitzvah to after camp. And what I recommend to parents sometimes is, sometimes you're making the bar mitzvah in the middle of the summer, and this particular class, all the boys are going to Gani Stroman Montreal, so they're not nearby. And you're making the bar mitzvah here in Crown Heights. He has no friends at his bar mitzvah. But you want to celebrate the bar mitzvah by Bayayim, the whole celebration. What are you going to do for the friends? So what we allow is that by his Nachas Tefillin, which is in Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, before the summer, that you can make a fancier Nachas Tefillin for him, like 12 o'clock in the middle of the day in your house. You can make a Fleshik Suda. The Rebbe will take the class. They'll go to your house. You could even have music. And for those boys, we allow that their Nachas Tefillin is a little fancier, more like a mini bar mitzvah for them, and maybe even have space that the class could dance or in your backyard, and that will be instead of the boys attending his bar mitzvah. Other than that, we don't allow fancy Nachas Tefillins. Like I explained before how we do Nachas Tefillin, but in this situation, we recommend it so the boy has some friends at some part of the celebration for his bar mitzvah. So here are some guidelines from the yeshiva about the bar mitzvah. First of all, explain to your child the value and what's happening when he turns bar mitzvah, everything that we spoke about tonight. Bar mitzvahs, as the host, please make it a Hasidic atmosphere. It has to feel like a Sodas mitzvah because that's what a bar mitzvah is. The music has to be Hasidic music. That's what we're all expecting of each other, sending our sons to a simcha. It's not a time for them to be introduced to anything new that they never heard of or never saw, and not according to the standards of their family. We should all adhere to a higher standard. You should not hire a DJ for your bar mitzvah. And I'll tell you why. In case you don't know what a DJ is not a live band. It's not a one-man band. He comes with a laptop, and he's a DJ. And what do I have against DJs? Nothing. He could play Nechayach for you. He could play Chabad.org live stream for you if he wanted to. But the nature of a DJ is that they have soundtracks. The nature is that they have unlimited access to every last hit song, questionable songs, songs that are totally not appropriate, and chas v'shalom, it's happened, and Oholei even Geisha songs. So therefore, don't hire a DJ, because a DJ, the nisayon of a DJ actually running a nice Hasidic and normal event at a bar mitzvah, it's not why people hire DJs. People hire DJs for those soundtracks, for a certain type of music, for that latest hit Israeli song, which is not Jewish at all, just because it has Hebrew in it. And the bar mitzvah ends up turning into a very not Hasidic event. And personally, when I walk in, I sometimes cringe if I see something like that. And I'll hear it from teachers, and I'll hear it from other parents. And there are even boys in the class who are edel and are sensitive, who will leave, who don't know how to dance to this music. Now, I'm going to say this, even if we want to put Hasidic reasons aside, and frum reasons aside, it's not because of being modern. When the minute you put on a DJ and a certain type of music and you start bringing the party hats and the light ups, it just turns into a silly event. And then the kid in the class, the Cheverman who figures out how to wear 3 hats and 2 sunglasses and bracelets and light up stuff, and it's not a bar mitzvah. It's not what a bar mitzvah is supposed to look like. I heard that Reb Nissen Nemenov, he came to his Einikel's bar mitzvah and there was round tables, he walked out, he was upset, he wanted it to be a ches. It was round tables, he walked out of the bar mitzvah. So these days you can't walk out, sensitive, the boy maybe won't be from forever. It's hard to strike that right balance. But the minute you start doing these silly party-like things at the bar mitzvah boys are lost. They don't know what to do. If you have a one-man band playing Hasidic music, you don't need motivators, you don't need anybody to teach them dance moves, not from Yeshiva Boys Choir, not from Miami Boys Choir. They know exactly how to dance, they know exactly how to be lebedik, they know how to be freilich, they know how to be besimcha, and it's beautiful. The minute the music changes, the lighting changes, then some confetti gets popped, some kids get lost, they don't know what to do, and it turns into inappropriate event. And therefore I say no DJ, because DJs by definition, that's what they do, that's what they want to promote, that's the video they'll take and put on their Instagram and on their WhatsApp status, and that's why they're cool, and that's why some people hire them, and that's why we shouldn't be hiring them. Technically, yes, a DJ could play Hasidic music. It's happened, but it's not what they're about. You hire a one-man band who plays Hasidic music, who would never play some other type of music, and it's a much nicer event. It's very important to make sure not to put alcohol on the bar mitzvah boys' table. I one time had to deal with it, and it was very unfortunate for that class. Someone put mashka on their table, and then the kids played around, and they drank it a little, and we had to deal with a story of kids tasting it. And they're too young for that. And don't make sure, as the host, you're responsible for that bar mitzvah. You're the host. You have to make sure that kids at your event do not access alcohol. Nothing that makes the boys wild or silly is necessary or should be at a bar mitzvah. For example, party hats, confetti, light-ups, bracelets, necklaces, glasses. And a lot of times this is done from innocence. I've spoken to parents about it. They said, oh, my daughter went to Amazing Savings. She saw these for 79 cents. She thought it was so cute for the bar mitzvah boys to have. The boys should have fun. It's not coming from a bad place. It's not coming from anybody trying to make the bar mitzvah modern or hepech of what it's supposed to be. It's coming from innocence very often. People think it's cute. But you could ask any of the teachers here who go to also 25, 30 bar mitzvahs a year. I personally, I go to over 100 bar mitzvahs a year, literally. And I'm telling you, the minute the light up things come on and the music changes, it changes the event, and it's not what a bar mitzvah is supposed to be. And it's not even a beautiful bar mitzvah. Like I'm saying, put the Hasidic thing aside, it's not even a beautiful bar mitzvah anymore. If you give nice, beautiful environment to Hasidic bar mitzvah, it's lebedik, it's Hasidic, it's varim, it's Yiddish, it's beautiful, and the boys do a great job at it. They don't need anybody's help. Now, you have to be careful. There is a minig that we have to stop. I tell the boys about it in yeshiva, that they put the boy like on this tablecloth and they flip him in the air. It is so dangerous because very often the boy's head is inches from the floor, if not that it hits the floor. We had a story 3 years ago where one bar mitzvah boy, he was a little bit on the smaller side, and they were doing jump rope. The kids took napkins and tied them all together and did jump rope. I'm not saying you should ban that. It's one of the shtick the boys do at a bar mitzvah. But they did jump rope, right? So you jump, eventually you get caught. That boy, when he got caught, the jump rope picked him up, flipped him in the air. He landed on his head. That's all out to be called, and it was very sad. In the middle of his own bar mitzvah, he ended up in the hospital for his own bar mitzvah, and he spent the night there with his parents, the night of his own bar mitzvah. The classmates were devastated. It was a pure accident, of course, and it wasn't that tablecloth thing. It was jump rope, which again is quite common. I'm not saying it's dangerous, but my point is accidents could happen. We have to be careful. That tablecloth thing where they flip the boy in the air is mamish sakanas nefashos. You shouldn't allow it to be done. You shouldn't allow your kid to be part of it or do it. Kid could hit his head in a second. The other things, the kids, they make all kinds of beautiful shtick, and they dance, and they have a great time. It's also important not to send your children to bar mitzvah with a smartphone. Now, as a parent, if I want to send my kids out of the house these days at night, I certainly want them to have a phone. You feel much safer, you're in touch with them, but I wouldn't give them a smartphone. And to bar mitzvah, for two reasons, you shouldn't give them a smartphone. Number one, there's Wi-Fi in all the halls, and the kids are smarter than us. This is not a must event, but you'll hear it over there. And they'll figure out how to see whatever they want. And it's not appropriate for kids to have access to a smartphone, unsupervised. Number two, even if there's mamish locked down and you went to tag and there's nothing on it, just a game. So if you walk into bar mitzvah, I've seen it. You have one kid on his phone, he's playing a game, and you have 7 kids over him. And the bar mitzvah boy Zayda, Rav in France, is speaking. It's not appropriate at all. The kids are watching this kid play one of these games. Car game, doesn't matter what it is. It's not the place at a bar mitzvah. So if you send the phone, it's a distraction. It could also lead to bullying. The boys take their phone, they film each other dancing, they make a meme out of it, they do different things. So we don't need smartphones at the bar mitzvah. If you want to send your kid with a phone, if you don't have yet a dumb phone for your children for when they leave the house, buy one. They're not expensive. Have a plan. Call it the kid's phone. Highly recommended. And your kid could take it to every bar mitzvah without having a smartphone. And you should encourage your son to leave the bar mitzvah on time and to walk home in groups, even 10 o'clock at night, when it's way safer than 11 o'clock. 10 to 11 at night, Kingston Avenue is a huge difference. But even 10 o'clock at night, you should encourage him that he walks home with his neighbors together, and you're in touch with them, and there's some plan. Parents are easiest partners, and we're asking that you partner with us. Everything that we're going to try to be mechanech the talmidim in yeshiva, you partner with us, that your values match ours. You make your bar mitzvah that way. You encourage your sons, not students, to attend the bar mitzvahs that way. You make your own bar mitzvah that way. You prepare them that way. You can share with them many points you heard at tonight's bar mitzvah. And in Mitzvah Hashem, this Kita Vav, which is the Kita Zayin of Tavshin Pei Gimel, we can in Mitzvah Hashem have 140 beautiful bar mitzvahs. We're almost done. After the bar mitzvah, he has to have his first Aliyah. So first of all, you have to practice. Some boys, very embarrassing. They get up there. They never practice once. They say, Baruch Hashem Amaveirach, Baruch Hashem Verach Le'elavat, and which bracha to make when. And then everybody's correcting them again. Similar to Kriyas HaTorah. It's an embarrassing event instead of an exciting event. You need to practice with your son. Maybe you don't. A lot of kids will know on their own because they're smart. They pick it up. Some kids, they won't know unless you practice it with them. There was one kid, if you get an Aliyah, you know that you say Baruch Hashem Amaveirach, and the tzibur has to answer. This kid said Baruch Hu, the tzibur was answering. Now they were answering. He thought they were correcting him. So he said Baruch Hu Hashem Vayrach, and the tzibur said Baruch. He told him, I know. he thought they're telling him what he has to say. No, he has to know that he's supposed to say this, then they're going to repeat that, then he has to repeat it, then he has to say the next bracha. Practice, that's all. It's that simple. Remember, the first Aliyah, originally, Al Pi Kabbalah, the first Aliyah is supposed to be specifically Shabbos Mincha. Afterwards, it was added that we do it even on a Monday and a Thursday. There's a halacha that a bar mitzvah boy is supposed to get an aliyah. In Shulchan Aruch, there's a list of different people who need an aliyah, a chiyuv, somebody who has yard side, somebody who's an avelos, a bar mitzvah boy, somebody who's traveling. Bar mitzvah boy is top priority, one of the highest ones of somebody who must get an aliyah. And we do it on Shabbos Mincha or Monday or Thursday. Now, what do you do if his bar mitzvah is maybe on Rosh Chodesh, maybe it's on Chol Hamoed, maybe it's on Chanukah? Should he get his aliyah on Tuesday? Should he get it on Wednesday? Should he get it on Friday? Because we're laning the Torah that day. There are different hayrais of the Rebbe depending on if it's Rosh Chodesh, if it was Chol Hamoed, if it was Chanukah. So I'm not going to answer that question tonight. I'm just going to tell you that it's a question, and if it applies to you, you need to look into it. For example, Rosh Chodesh, if your bar mitzvah is on Rosh Chodesh, or if your mitzvah is the day before Rosh Chodesh, on Tuesday, and Rosh Chodesh is Wednesday, you don't get an aliyah on Wednesday. You wait for Thursday. Or, because Monday, Thursday are special days, and Shabbos Mincha is a special time. Other times, maybe Chanukah, Chol Hamoed, you will get midweek, so you have to look into that. But the standard is Shabbos Mincha, Monday or Thursday. Similar to what I was telling you about the hall, reserve your Aliyah in advance. And it's even more important. Why? If you're going to want to get an Aliyah in 770 downstairs, or you're going to want to get an Aliyah in the Rebbe's room, or by the aisle, or wherever, a certain place you're going to want to get an Aliyah. Here, not just you're competing with 140 boys in Oholei Torah, and remember, for the Aliyah, it's not just the boy who had his bar mitzvah that day, it's anyone who had a bar mitzvah that week. And not just with another 75 to 100 boys his age in the rest of Crown Heights, many people flying from their bar mitzvah, from Miami, Montreal, Toronto, California, even Israel. There's always bar mitzvah boys getting their first Aliyah. Now, they booked flights from Israel for their son's bar mitzvah in 7 months from now. They already called the Gabbai and booked the Aliyah. You're going to think, what's the big deal? My son's having bar mitzvah. You're going to call the Gabbai the week before his bar mitzvah. Could I have an Aliyah in 770? He's going to tell you, no. This was booked 9 months ago already. So there's no reason that you can't book it. You know now when his bar mitzvah is. You certainly know when his first Aliyah is going to be. And if you want it to be at a certain minyan, at a certain place, or Rebbe's room, downstairs, wherever it may be, you're going to have to book it in advance. I put up here the number to Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Kratz. He's the Gabbai downstairs, 770. That's his number. That's how you book Aliyahs for downstairs. And Rabbi Meir Harlig, that's his number. And that's how you book an Aliyah for upstairs, 770. And these things are grabbed up pretty quickly, well in advance. And our minig is that at the first Aliyah, the father makes a bracha, Baruch Shabtrani. Our minig is that he makes a bracha Bli Shem HaMalchus, so he doesn't say Hashem Elokeinu, but he says Baruch Shabtrani. That is our minig. We have raffles to make, but I want to conclude with the Rebbe's letter to a bar mitzvah to wish everybody here. First of all, thank you for joining. I know it was a long event, but we had a lot to share. And I want to wish everybody what the Rebbe wishes every bar mitzvah boy, that Shem Yisbarach Yatzlichai, Liyos Chasid, Yirei Shemayim, V'lamdin, and everybody should have a tremendous amount of Nachas from your bar mitzvah boys. We want to thank our sponsors for giving us prizes to raffle off tonight. So prize number 1 is a complete set of leather tefillin bags of prestige embroidery and up to $500 value. Prize number 2 is a hat from two hats from Bellissimo Hats. We're going to have 2 winners. Now they asked me to announce that they have a bar mitzvah package, so if you come there and you buy a weekly hat and a Shabbos hat, you get a deal of $55 off. Prize number 3 is going to be $400 off HaSefer. Thank you to HaSefer for sponsoring, Rabbi Moshe Klein. And you're going to get $200 towards your Rashi pair and $200 towards your Rabbeinu Tam pair of tefillin. And prize number 4 is Machin Stam, $300 off your pair of tefillin. We're going to make those raffles right now. And these prizes are non-transferable, and you can't sell them. If you win and make use of those tefillin or that particular tefillin bag or that hat, it's good. If not, then it just can't be used. We're not selling it or giving it over to anybody else. I'm going to get the box. We'll make these raffles. So we're going to go back to prize number 1. So if you win first, your name gets taken out of the box, but at least you get the most expensive prize. So here's everybody. When you came in, you got these cards. And our first winner for free tefillin bags of Prestige Embroidery. Thank you, Prestige Embroidery, located on Albany Avenue. They have beautiful tefillin bags. The winner is none other than the father. The father put this one in, the father of Ketzel Minkowitz. For Bellissimo Hats, our first winner for their new Italian collection $270 hat, our first winner is the mother of Beryl Lightstone. You won that for your son. And for another hat from Bellissimo Hats, I'll mix this again so we get to everybody. The winner is, this time, the mother of Getzel Minkowitz. All right, let's mix that again. All right, for HaSefer, thank you to Rabbi Moshe Klein and Rabbi Shapiro for sponsoring this prize from HaSefer located on Kingston Avenue. And the next winner is going to be $400 off tefillin at HaSefer, the father of Beryl Lightstone. And I'm mixing it. I'm really mixing it. All right, we have 2 doubles tonight. And let's go to the last prize, which was Machin Stam. All right. Is the brother of, right? Okay. The mother of Mendel Fagin. Fagin, like F-A-G-A-N. Mother of Mendel Fagin. In Rabbi Blau's class. And I will be sharing the Google form for the bar mitzvah dates. Please fill it out. Thank you for joining.